Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Small Talk. It's not quite a news headline, but it is what the girls are talking about. And I am here today. I'm so excited. I'm here with Laura Henshaw, who is the CEO and co-founder of KIC app and also KICPOD, which is one of my favorite podcasts.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. And I should kick off by saying a huge congratulations. I mean, this will come out in a few days, but it was only last night that you put out the news that you're expecting a baby.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it means a lot. I was so nervous to post about it. I think it's because last year I was so public about I literally did a podcast about it in making the decision on whether to have kids and not to have kids. And I just think because, I don't know, I just was like, I don't want to let anyone down. And I just had all these thoughts in my head. And no, it's been a really nice response, which I'm very grateful for.
Oh, I mean, that series was so interesting. I encourage everyone to go listen to it because I do just think it's not a conversation we have nearly enough. And it spurred so many good conversations in my friendship group as well, because for my experience, I think I had always thought I wanted to be a mum. It wasn't until we started having these conversations that I realized some people didn't even feel that way, and that they hadn't had the space to say that. And so many friends were like, yeah, I don't have that same instinct, or like their reasons for it were different. And it was just so valid. I then felt so bad that we don't air those conversations because we should be. And I loved hearing Dalton speak in that as well, because I was like, oh my God, what a green flag man.
I have a good husband. I am. No, it's funny. I say I'm lucky, but I mean, he's lucky too. We're both lucky, right? I feel like sometimes for men, we have such a low bar.
No, I almost heard myself say that, and I was like,
no. But I also don't want to say my husband is like the bare minimum, because I'm very grateful, but I also was very conscious in choosing a partner that was supportive, wanted equality within our relationship and everything. And I was really grateful as well. And this was actually something I had always thought in the decision to have children, in making it, that you made it together. And in doing the mini-series, that was one of the first things that I kind of learnt throughout it. Because really for me, it was learning and asking the questions that I didn't know where to get the answers to.
Yeah.
And it was that I thought you had to make the decision together, but you actually need to make the decision separately in what you want or you desire or not. Because, of course, you might decide that you desire to have children, but you might not be able to. So you have to work out your desires separately and then come together. Because what I also learned in that mini-series was in the one episode we spoke to a relationship expert, and she has seen so many couples in her office, and wanting or not wanting to have children, it's not always the case, but often it's a values misalignment.
Yeah.
And if one partner wants to have them and one doesn't, then what happens is there's resentment. So one partner almost, if the person that wanted to have them feels like they're a single parent almost sometimes, because the other partner's like, oh, well, I didn't want this, you wanted this. Yeah. Or if they don't and they always wanted it, then they'll always often not always, resent their partner, or they can resent their partner because they stopped them from having kids, which was important for them. So I think I always knew it was a big decision, but I think it really just cemented how serious the decision, how big in our lives it is, right?
It is so big. Yeah. I think a big part of it that I took away was also doing it for the right reasons as well. And I feel like so many people come at it for totally different reasons, and they're all valid if you have the same reasons as as your partner. But you also hear using it to try and strengthen a relationship, it was that started a lot of conversations, or talking to guy friends about it too. It was a really interesting thing that I never considered, that for them, similar to I guess how I felt, I was like, oh yeah, I'll always be a mum. They also thought, oh yeah, I'll tick that box.
Yes.
And it wasn't because they wanted to be a dad.
It was because from society.
It was, I'll have a wife and we'll have the government will issue us a house and a dog and a kid. And they were also not actually thinking through why they wanted that as well. Oh, anyway, really great series.
I really appreciate it. It's been interesting as well. I think even in having the conversation, I think this is why I was nervous. I knew I would get people saying that. It's so funny because I've never said I don't want to have children. Now, I don't expect everyone to have listened to the mini-series, but I do think a lot of people that saw some snippets maybe from the podcast or whatever it was when it came out, because I didn't know, they kind of made the assumption that I then didn't want kids. Or even there's some people that think, well, if you don't want kids, you don't know, you shouldn't have them. And obviously I went through the process and I did decide, but I think that's also been really interesting to get some commentary and people writing someone wrote to me some funny comment, like, I thought it was so odd to comment it on a pregnancy announcement post. Like,
oh no, I think
they said something like, didn't you say like a month ago that you didn't want children? And I was like, okay, first of all, like, that's a funny comment to post. Second of all, I didn't. Like, I haven't said that. I said that I didn't know, and then I decided I wanted to. But also, if I did say that I didn't want to, and I changed my mind, that is also okay. And I think we just, with social media, sometimes we live in, and even just generally, not just in social media, but in the world, we expect people to, if you say something one day, that you can't change your opinion on it.
Yeah.
And with a decision like this, like, we can't not change our minds, or we have to allow space for people to change their minds if they want to.
But
and it's
also,
their life.
Yes. And also it was the irony of the fact that the series was to put the conversation out there. Like, it was, we're not decided, we're putting the conversation out there, and the fact that people aren't thinking of it as a conversation, thinking of it as an obligation, was the point of the series.
It was. It's true.
Oh, that's so exciting though. So what was that like when you found out? So I'm now just...
No, of course. So it was such a shock, to be honest. And I think that's something that was really important for me to be able to talk about. Was something else that I thought a lot about in making the decision is you see all these videos on social media, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's amazing, where people find out they're pregnant. They might have been trying for a long time. They might have experienced infertility. And for me, it was a shock. And I know that it is a privilege that the first pregnancy test I ever did was a positive pregnancy test.
Wow.
And then it was a shock. So Dalton and I have had, my mum is such a fan of you guys and this podcast and Hannah and everything, and so my whole family. My sister was so funny. I was just on the phone to my mum before, and Sienna was like, "Oh my God, you're going on that? Amazing! Go
Wait, that is so surreal coming from you."
Of course. So mum will probably be listening, and also I just want to say this is not advice for everyone. Do not follow my advice. Also, mum, sorry, but I've had unprotected sex almost my whole life, and I have definitely had sex. I mean, I'm not like having like a shitload of sex. No. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not like the chances are super, super high.
Yeah.
But we have definitely had sex in my ovulation period so many times. I've never had a scare. Like, it's so interesting. I have so much anxiety about so many things in my life, but around getting pregnant, I have a very regular period. I've never, ever, ever feared it because it's just never happened. And so for me, when I actually, there was a little bit of, again, sorry TMI, but whatever.
No, I'm also like loving this because, like, as you're saying this as well, like, that's been such a big part of conversations I've had recently as well, because I'm really bad at remembering to take the pill.
So again, please do not say as I do. I went off the pill. It made me feel very bad. I was on it when I was 18, and I remember I was maybe around 18. I lost all motivation. I was not myself. But I remember I was so bad at taking it because I'd forget. I'd take like 4 in a day because I was like, oh, I missed 4 days. Now you don't do that. Don't do that. And then I stopped, and I was like, okay, this is but anyway. So that was me. And so when we found out, so I had a bit of blood in my underwear, and I've been going and seeing my amazing chiropractor that's been helping with my period pain. And when he said I could help you with your period pain, I was like, everyone says they can help me, they don't, etc. But I was like, sure, obviously trust you. And so I got a bit of blood, and I was like, oh my God, I had no pain. Also, my period is so light. I've cured myself. Amazing. And then nothing else came, like, overnight. I'm like, okay, like, I do believe in this, but I don't know if it could have like gone this extreme, like from like Niagara Falls, sorry again, TMI, but like to nothing. Then Dalton said to me, I think you might be pregnant. And I was like, honey, we had sex once last month. And again, I know I'm so lucky to say this. It was once. I'm also training for a marathon. I had a laparoscopy booked in on the 15th of May. And what that is for endometriosis, but also the gynecologist said, I want to go have a look because while I don't want to worry you and we don't know, it is, if you have had that much unprotected sex and you haven't fallen pregnant, like, we just want to make sure there's nothing going on. So the last thing I thought was that I was going to be pregnant. Like, we had sex once. It was so, sorry again, this is...
No.
I was going to say it.
It's not.
It was a quickie on a Friday morning to the point where Dalton was like, please. And I was, in the morning, I'm like, I'm so type A. I'm so routine. I'm like, I have to get to work as early as possible. I was like, no. I'm like, fine, you have 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes. Literally. Anyway, so it was like, that's how I was like, no, we're not going to be pregnant. And it's literally a miracle when you fall pregnant, right? And so Dalton's like, you should do a pregnancy test. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. And I did it, and he was actually still in the shower because I was like, it's not going to be. And I saw, and I was like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. Like, this is absolutely crazy. But it wasn't why I'm telling you this. Apologies, not to go so deep into my sex life.
Stop apologizing. You should hear some of the stuff I've said on this podcast.
But it was because for me that moment wasn't this. I was not crying of sadness, but I didn't have emotion. Like Dalton and I didn't embrace each other, and like all these videos I'd seen online, it was a full moment of shock. And I think that for me, I was worried that that moment wouldn't be what I kind of had seen online, and it wasn't, but it didn't matter. Like, that's okay. Like, after we had some time to process. And the same thing with my mum. Like, when I told my mum, she was so funny. I told my family I put a test in it. I couldn't be bothered. I was like, oh, should I do something cute and like buy a t-shirt to be like, you're going to be a whatever. But then I just didn't. So then I had a Caseify box at home, like a phone case box. And I put the test in there. And I gave it to my mum. And I was like, do you want a new phone case? And she actually really wanted a new phone case. So she was like, oh, I did want a new phone case. And she opens it and she was like so confused that there was no phone case in there. And then she, it was so funny. The test, she was so confused. Like, she took a while to work out what it was. And it was so funny. But even same for her, she was in shock because she didn't think. And then like a bit after, once it's absorbed, then we were like, it's good. And so, no, I'm so grateful that I did feel happy, because I was still scared. Even though I went through the whole journey, I was like, you never know. It's like anything. It's like a breakup, whatever it might be. You never can be 100 million% right on anything, because you never know. There's so many unknowns. You don't know how you're going to feel.
Yeah. And that's normalizing that as well.
Yeah.
I'm actually so glad you said this, because I feel like there is so much pressure around like having that maternal instinct from like the second you see a pregnancy test, and that doesn't happen for so many people. It's shock a lot of the time.
Shock, 100% shock. Like, what the heck?
Oh, wow. But I wanted to talk to you today about wellness trends online, because you and Steph both speak so well to this, and I'm just being bombarded on my TikTok right now. And I don't know, then you kind of have that point of self-reflection and you're like, am I looking for this? And that's why my algorithm is entirely this right now. But it feels like there's something different every day. And I want to talk about wellness trends and how to navigate the ones that are actually kind of useful and the ones that are toxic, because it feels very blurred lines right now.
Oh, and there's so much online, and it's so hard. And I think the thing with the algorithm and the echo chamber that we kind of live in and the way that it works is, and I found this too, we get served this as like young women. I mean, I'm definitely not as young as you, but as young women that can be targeted by this comment, right, on this content on TikTok. The algorithm does send, like, I have been sent, even though I obviously do not engage in content that is pro-ED, I have had that served up my algorithm. And for me, I watch it and I'm like, oh my God, how is this online? Like, how is this allowed? Where is the moderation, etc.? Yeah. But then what happens is you watch it and then you're like, oh, what the heck are people commenting? Because you expect to go in there and people being like, this is problematic, this is so toxic, it's really dangerous. People are suggesting like other ways to lose weight, and they're pro this, and they like it, and they call it like the discipline, which we'll get into. It's crazy, almost the bullying into this kind of way of life and eating, etc., to yourself. And it's shocking. And then you get more of that content, right?
Yes. And I think that's what I've done accidentally. Yeah. But it's so easy to get sucked in, because I don't even think I'm actively looking for this stuff, and I don't think a lot of people are, but you do go through, you want to be more health conscious.
Yes.
And a lot of it's actually like coming off the back of the fact that people are caring about their health a lot right now, and that's a really good thing. And what I'm finding difficult is wanting to see healthy content that I'm learning a lot from, but it's such a slippery slope. Yeah. Then you're like, wait, are you all apparently certified dietitians? Like,
100%.
Who are these people giving like full meal plans out, or what I eat in a days, or Fitspo, or, I mean, I think we should probably start with explaining, so probably the most obviously toxic one, which is skinny talk. And actually, this is really well timed, because only in the past like week or so, the European regulators got rid of skinny talk on TikTok, so that if you go on the hashtag now, it'll actually come up with resources for if you're struggling with disordered eating or anything like that, which is pretty amazing.
And it's by country as well. In Australia, it will say the Butterfly Foundation. It's good. It is good.
It is good. Is it bad that I was almost surprised that happened? TikTok's been so unregulated.
I don't think so. I think because there's hardly any moderation on there. And I think the thing that's really scary, and you mentioned it before, and that it's kind of diet culture just keeps getting rebranded and wrapped up as wellness almost. And skinny talk now, you can't search for it, but what's going to happen? And it is good. It's good that TikTok have stepped in and done something. And obviously it's only just happened.
Yes.
And it's been very problematic for a very long time. It is good. It's good. We have to, commend them for doing that. But what will happen is they're just going to find another hashtag. And I think with diet culture, I mean, it's so true what you said, because living a healthy lifestyle, if it comes down to how you feel, we want to feel good. We want to feel energized. For me, when I exercise and when I move my body and I eat well and I sleep and I look after my mind and I socialize, like there's so many elements that are a part of wellness. It's not just eating and movement.
Yeah.
In a way that fuels me and makes me feel good. I have energy. I feel strong. I feel empowered. All of these things. That's good. We want to feel like that, right? But where it can go very wrong, and this is what happened with me when I was, and it was why we started KIC. Steph and I both went through our own personal experiences with disordered eating. Steph went down the path of binge eating, and for me, I was very restrictive. And I know actually for me, I was about 19, and at that time it was the era of Victoria's Secret, but also Kate Moss. The Tumblr picture of nothing feels as good as skinny feels was huge. Skinny me tea days.
Oh, I had skinny me tea.
Oh,
and
the
I
amount
was
of my friends that shat themselves at university.
It's like 13.
It's a laxative. Oh my God. And see, that's scary, isn't it? Like you're 13 and you're taking a that's not good for our bodies,
But that was
right?
very, oh my God, that it wasn't even that insane at the time. Like I know that sounds, looking back, I'm like, that was wild, but I wasn't even particularly health conscious. It was just quite trendy to have it.
And it was also very quick because you literally cleared your entire digestion because it was a form of a laxative. And so people saw like results very quickly and that motivated them, right? And also that was very much the brand thing, was before and afters. It's how they promoted it, using very small people, right?
Yeah.
And so for me at that time, that was kind of the era. And I remember I'm type A personality. I can be very disciplined. And when you put that together with being focused on wanting to look like, I had never really, I love sport. Hadn't really thought a lot about diets before that. I was very lucky. I grew up in a household where my parents, my mum really didn't speak about her body.
Not an almond mum then.
Not an almond mum, exactly. But a lot of people do grow up with almond mums, right? And it's not their fault. It's because of how they grew up. It's because of the pressure society puts on us. As women, we're just told we have to be small.
Yeah. And I mean, my mum, I wouldn't call her an almond mum, but she definitely had tendencies towards almond mum, but it's because she struggled with her own like yo-yoing and that sort of thing as well. So I think she was so worried that she didn't want us to go through the same thing, but it kind of then came with its own set of problems then.
Of course. And you have to have compassion for that, right? Because it's not like anyone's parent, or I can't say anyone, maybe there's a small amount, but for most of them, it's not like anyone's parents thought, I want to give my child eating body dysmorphia, or I want to expose my child to diet culture before they even thought about the way their body looks. But unfortunately, it's the society that we grow up in. And so for me, when I was 19, that was kind of what it was. And I downloaded social media and I literally started Instagram to use, this is how old I am compared to you, to use filters to post on Facebook. So I'd use to
put the black border on it.
Valencia,
and then
felt like sepia and Valencia, I think were my favorite. Screenshot, put it on Facebook. So that's how old I am anyway. And
hey, I'm sitting here. I'm going to make you take a digital camera photo with me later.
Which I love. And I downloaded Instagram and all of a sudden I was exposed to all of these people that looked absolutely perfect. And in terms of that, they had, they're promoting the pro thigh gap, all of these things like abs, all of these things that I didn't have. And I thought, well, if I can have what they have, if my body looks like them, I will be worthy. I will be good enough. And I won't be happy until I get to that body. And they're all promoting different diets. No, I would say actually, out of the people that I was following at that time, not one of them were qualified. They're all people sharing what they eat in a day, etc. And I did science in school. I knew that with biology, you and I could eat exactly the same. We could exercise exactly the same. We will never, ever, ever have the same body because we are genetically different, right? It goes out the window.
And that's why when I have these conversations, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm educated. I know I'm able to have these amazing conversations with friends and I go, yeah, that's ridiculous. And yet I will still find myself sometimes going down do I have a cortisol face
of course.
rabbit hole? And you're like, I know better than that.
But it goes out the window. And so for me, it went out the window. Common sense goes out the window. And I started comparing myself to all these people. I started following all of their diets, like some of which, it was also on the day of, there was an influencer that promoted just eating bananas. And I want to say her name because I think she's probably evolved from that time, but she would promote having 25 bananas a day and 40 dates. It was very niche.
That's also very much spoken about.
Unbalanced diet. And there was raw till 4, paleo, keto, etc., whatever. I was trying to follow all of it. And a lot of these diets, and this is something that is a very big red flag when it comes to content, If you have to cut out a food group, it is restrictive.
Yeah.
It is a diet, because when it comes to eating disorders, and for me, I did not develop a clinically diagnosed eating disorder, but I had disordered eating tendencies. If you have the psychology and the genetics combined with seeing that content and being exposed to it, like that's how a clinically diagnosed eating disorder comes about, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I saw all this and I was trying to follow everything. I was cutting out food groups, etc. We shouldn't, of course, if you're allergic, like I'm anaphylactic to nuts. I have to cut them out, otherwise I go to hospital and die, right? I have an EpiPen. Exactly. But outside of that, it's really dangerous if we're cutting out food groups.
Yeah. And when it's trendy to cut out food groups.
Exactly right.
Specifically.
Even vegan. I remember at one point I considered going vegan, just at the trigger warning as well from like eating disorder content. But at that time I was like, that will help me control what I'm eating, because if I'm out with friends, if I say I'm vegan, I don't have to eat the food that, they're eating.
Yeah.
And so very quickly, it kind of went from this following people on Instagram, being curious, into restricting everything I was eating. I then also got a contract to model in Milan. Now, at the time I was doing my law degree, I had deferred the law degree to go and do that. I think getting the opportunity to model internationally, also in the modeling industry, your value is the way that you look. So that was very bad for my mental space. And getting an opportunity to go and travel overseas, I was like, wow, what amazing, it'll be so glamorous. It is not. It was not.
It's brutal.
Brutal.
There's so many people mean.
There. Most of the modeling houses, you live in like a model apartment or whatever. Some of them have like 18 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. Like it is crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so went there, and I remember I had this goal weight. And I thought, if I get to this goal weight, which is way, way small, I actually don't know what I weigh right now, but it's actually, you know what, in being pregnant, you have to weigh yourself. And that's actually been quite confronting for me, because I haven't for such a long time. Yeah, in your medical
I'd never even thought of that. Yeah, no, I would never go near.
But it's good. Like I was actually so proud of myself when I saw the number. It just was the number. I was like, oh, whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I didn't for a very long time, because that for me was very triggering. Same with counting calories. For me, that's something that can exacerbate me having food noise and thinking about food, so I don't do it. So I then, thought, if I get to this goal weight, I will be happy.
Yeah.
So I was excessively exercising. I was exhausted. I looked so tired. I cut out so many food groups. I was hardly eating, was hardly socializing, because when you're in a social environment, you can't always control your food. When you are in the mindset of body dysmorphia and disordered eating, you want to control every single thing. And when you can't, the anxiety that forces you, also because all of this content, especially Skinny Talk, tells us if we don't restrict ourselves, we should feel guilty. We are not disciplined enough. We have given up on ourselves.
I'm so glad you brought this up, because that was something when I looked into Skinny Talk, that was one of the things I clocked. The messaging is so different now. I feel like, and maybe this was just my experience, but I feel like when it was those Tumblr days, it was very romanticized. It was almost poetic, and like it was something almost softer about the approach with it. And then this Skinny Talk, the way it's come back, is actually tough love. It's almost why it's so hard to differentiate who to trust and who not to trust, and who's giving good advice and who's not, because such conviction with everything they're saying.
Exactly. And so I had this goal, and I was the unhealthiest I had ever been. And I think as well, when we think about health, as we spoke about, it's not just eating well, and you could exercise whatever every day, eat veggies, meat, whatever, eat healthy. But if you're not socializing, if you're isolated, if your mental health is impacted, if you feel like shit about yourself and you think you're not good enough, I would say you are not healthy. Like, you will feel very stressed. We know how bad stress is worse for us than smoking in some instances. So for me, I remember I got this goal weight, and I looked down on the scales. I got there. This moment that I had told myself would make me feel like I was good enough. I looked in the mirror, and all I could do was pull myself apart. And that, for me, in the moment, did I have this awakening? No. It took me like years to get out of this mindset, because it has been programmed into us since we were such little girls. It takes time, right? Everything, it's a journey. And still, I sometimes have thoughts, but I'm very good at just being like, no, it's not my worth anymore. But I looked in the mirror and I just picked myself apart. And so I think for me, looking back on that now, and when I speak to people that are in this, because when you're in it, it is so hard. You will never, ever, ever find fulfillment in yourself because of the size of your body, because we will never, ever, ever be good enough or look like the people that we see online.
they don't even look like they do
don't.
online.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So what's really scary with skinny talk and even diet talk, because that's something that you can still search. Diet talk, it's interesting. There are some pieces of content on diet talk that are nutritionists, dietitians or whatever it might be speaking about, here's some ways that you can get healthier. Now, if they're speaking in a way where they're saying, here's how you move your body, so for example, instead of saying, I'm going to cut out junk food, you say, I'm going to add more veggies to my diet. That's not restrictive. It's great to add more veggies to your diet, right? But that's not you having food noise, thinking about that all the time. So there's some content on diet talk that might be okay. But there's also when I scroll, it was about 3 minutes, and I saw every single piece of content, which would have been hundreds, was from women. Yeah, except 2 from men. So it's very female. And I don't know if that's because I'm registered obviously on TikTok as a female.
I wondered that.
I'm not sure.
I don't know, because this is a slight tangent on the side, but it did just make me think of that. Talking about men and diet culture, I think is also really interesting because I think a lot of it is disordered eating and they're not labeling it as that because disordered eating is very female.
For men.
Is very female orientated, but I'm looking at the diets they're doing and the way it consumes them is exactly the same, but for some reason it's not being labeled the way it is for girls. It's gains or whatever it is. Really interesting. I don't think that's getting enough attention over there.
It's so true. And I think as well, like we do speak about women's, but we know like in the media, when we see celebrities, for example, like very rarely are men's bodies commented on. It's women's bodies, right? But when men, of course, still feel this pressure. I do think women feel more.
Yes. Yeah,
I also think women are objectified more. We're also told that we need to be smaller, we need to shrink, we need to have like our voice needs not talk as much, take up less space, etc. And I think that's a really fucking hard message, especially when we're talking about diet culture. And also
it's political. Everything's political.
Course, but trend-wise as well, if we look at like what's crazy is that women's bodies, and it's interesting, I don't know enough about men's bodies trending. I can't think of, I don't think it's at the same volume as women. But our bodies trend, like different body sizes trend. Now that is crazy because we are all genetically so different. And I think that's the thing when it comes to diet talk and skinny talk, like with the diet talk as well, almost every single piece of content I saw was what I eat in a day videos, what I really struggle with. So if there is a dietitian talking about here's what I eat in a day with a diet that's like really balanced with fiber and protein, whatever it might be, that can be okay, right? They're accredited as long as they're recommending the right calorie intake. Yeah, fine. But if it's someone that's not qualified and they're promoting what they're eating, they're talking about having small portion sizes, they're starting the video with a video of their body and tensing their body, which is often like in quotation marks, the like ideal body type of the time. And then they're saying what they eat. That is literally saying, if you want to look like me, they're not saying it, but it is in there, right? It's inferred. Exactly. It is implied in that. If you eat like me, you will look like me. Yeah. And that is not the case. Also, a lot of them are not recommending like a balanced diet because they're not credited, like they don't have the experience. Often they're also really young. They don't realize the impact it's having on society, and young women that are really impressionable. And that's what's scary because diet talk isn't banned, even though skinny talk is. And I was on this morning on the Eating Disorders Victoria website because I think what's really important to think about is, okay, how is this actually, does this, because a lot of people, if you go on these hashtags, will say that, like I was watching one video this morning, it was on diet talk and it was of a woman saying, I love skinny talk because I need to be bullied sometimes by myself. Like I need to be told to stop eating, to blah, 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 blah. It doesn't impact me, right?
But I do think that's really common. People just want to be told. It's like, I don't understand. I've never been able to go to a dietitian. I've never been able to speak to a doctor about this, but I want to lose weight. So if you could just tell me and make it easy, then thank you. Yeah. And that's why it is. That's why
being
it gets so much
empowered
traction.
with tools to lead a healthy life. That we know recently, there's an influencer called Liv Schmidt. Is that how you say her name?
Liv Schmidt, yeah.
That has been banned from the platform with her. She has a club called Skinny Society.
She does have a club called Skinny Society.
And she has come out and said, I don't promote eating disorders. However, so this is on the Eating Disorders Victoria website. It says imposing restrictions on natural hunger cues through dieting is the single biggest risk factor for an eating disorder. And again, I just want to put a trigger warning here. I'm sure they'll be on the episode as well, but because this stuff is so triggering, but in her Skinny Society book or whatever it is, it says what the skinny girl does. She sips water. She walks. She cleans. She shuts the fridge. She says, "Not today, Satan. I have a waistline to protect. Food noise dies when you don't feed it. It's that simple. It's that savage. Starve the noise, not yourself." So then she has recommendations on how to restrict yourself, how to stop the food noise. Because if you are starving, that's all you're thinking about, right? Drink tea, ice roll your face, reapply lip gloss, leave the apartment, paint your nails. The chickest appetite suppression is distraction. So that, I don't know how you can say
that's not disordered eating.
Is not imposing restrictions on natural hunger cues, which we know is the single biggest risk for an eating disorder. And that's what's scary. And yes, not everyone that sees this content is going to develop an eating disorder, because there's also the genetic element. But if you combine this content with someone who genetically can get an eating disorder, that's what causes an eating disorder.
But what is really frightening about that is the way she's tied it up with an aesthetic. Like, it's very much,
yes, it's got lips on it, kisses, gloss, and these like photos of Kate Moss and things.
And it's like, get your 10K steps in, have a march. It's kind of romanticized in that way of like, put on your cute active wear and put some like road lip gloss on. I'm looking at my road lip gloss there, but like,
no, but it is
that
aesthetic.
Girly pop. You
girl.
have your life together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And it is so, so dangerous.
And she had like 600,000 followers on TikTok before she got removed. She was sort of the face of Skinny Talk. And then she's still on Instagram, but they've now banned her from monetizing from that group.
And she said she was making, I think it was over $100,000 a month. Now, I assume that's in USD, because I don't think she lives in Australia.
No. Yeah.
That is, and that's monetized from her group where she's promoting this skinny society. It might be from other elements, but that would be a big part of it. And what's scary, and this is the thing, the diet industry is a multi-billion dollar industry. Like, they make money off the fact that, especially as women, we don't think we're good enough. We need to change our bodies to be accepted. And they give us all of these things that tell us we're going to be good enough and sell it to us. It's all really the only way to, like, you want to feel good. That's what's important. There's no secret. There's no, like, these things, they promise these secrets. They say, if you join, like, I'll help you find your dream body. You know what your dream body is? Your dream body is the body that you feel comfortable in. You don't have food noise all the time. Like, if you are having to restrict yourself and you are thinking about food every single second of the day because you're not eating it and you're depriving yourself, that is not your dream body. Like, that is hell. And I lived there for a few years, and it is, for me, what's very important is my work, my study, etc. I couldn't study. My brain was dead because I had no fuel. I had such shit relationships because I was so isolated from my friends. Like, that's the stuff that matters.
It's one of those things as well that yes, Skinny Talk has been banned. Diet Talk is still there. Fitspo in some ways is still there. Like, anything else is just going to be born from it. And it's like, unless we have an absolute society shakedown, how do you not just put a Band-Aid on it? Because policy can't work as fast as these trends.
No, especially with social media, and that's what really scary is that they have banned something, right? They've banned Skinny Talk. They're just going to change the spelling.
Yeah.
They're probably going to spell skinny with a 1. It's still got, do you know what I mean? They've probably done that. They've got Diet Talk. There's going to be another hashtag and another hashtag. So I think what's important is, because sometimes in this environment you can feel defeated. Like, fuck, what do we, and that's the thing for me, because I feel like back in the 90s we went through this, or early, how old would I be when I was 19? So 13 years ago, 2010-ish. In that time, it was very much the Victoria's Secret, as I was saying, like Kate Moss, nothing feels as good as skinny feels, Tumblr vibe. That's gone. And we have then gone into this more body acceptance, which is great. All, like, really stop promoting that stuff. And you know what's interesting? Not now. 3 years ago, if you promoted what I eat in a day content with your body, if you were saying, like, here's my guide to shred before your wedding, all that stuff, you would get called out, right? Or called in, I want to say, because it's, people they only know what they know. And I think it's important that we approach people respectfully and inform them and educate them, because they might not know. Sometimes they do know, though, which is obviously incredibly disappointing. But what's scary now is, like, it's like we're in a cycle. We've gone back to where we were.
Forget.
All of the learnings are gone. It's a new generation that's come through, right? Like Liv Schmidt, we were talking earlier, she's 22. In her early 20s, right? She hasn't been through this learning that we've been through. And so I think you can feel really defeated. Like I can feel as someone who's been through it very, very defeated because we've done all this work. It's like so much about what we do at KIC.
And then you hear a 22-year-old say that. And you're like, did you not learn from everything you've just been through?
Exactly. And as you said, policy cannot respond quickly enough. But what we can do is we can learn what the red flags are. And so what we always say at KIC, like if something is dieting and restrictive, it means it's unsustainable. So it's why I really struggle with, and we don't do before and after photos. I don't like before and after photos because, and for some people it motivates them and that's fine. And I think same with calorie counting, it motivates some people. For me, it was a very big trigger for my disordered eating. And so we don't have any calories listed in the apps. And so a lot of apps you go in, they'll say, take your progress photo, measure your body, whatever, and then we'll show you your progress. And with a diet, the other one big red flag is if it has a start and an end time. Because why should it have an end time if it's a sustainable way of eating? If it's a lifestyle change. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
And not crash coursing.
But if you have, and it's the same with wedding, when we have this pressure to lose weight before our wedding, look our best, whatever, etc. You are then, if you do this before and after photo, you're literally telling yourself, before I was not good enough, I'm better, I'm good enough at the after. And then you have a photo of yourself for the rest of your life. And when you were in this period of, like for me, it's funny, when I do my before and after photo now, it's like the opposite. It's when I was unhealthy and very, very small. It's my before photo. My after is how I am now, like healthy in my body, feel good, I don't restrict myself, etc. But what can be really difficult is you're setting yourself up to not only compare yourself to every single person on the internet, but also a version of yourself where you might have, like I remember back as well, like there were so many different franchises, like they were fitness franchises, but they had challenges where the food was really restrictive.
Was that the whole bikini body guide?
Yes, exactly.
Craze,
that
right?
era. There were so many of it with really, really low calories, right? With low calories, if you eat low calorie, like you don't eat enough to sustain you, it means you're living in food noise, you're living in restriction, and then you over-exercise. Yes, your body is going to get smaller. Yes, that's correct. It is unsustainable though. I think now you might be busier with work. You might want to see your friends. You might not want to count every calorie, measure what you're eating, etc. Not be restrictive. You then have a photo of yourself for the rest of your life that says, unless I look like that, I'm not good enough. And that's why I really struggle with it.
And it's so subconscious as well because no one's doing it to like hate themselves at the beginning. It's like
they want to feel good.
Motivation, it's health, it's wellness, which is this whole thing. And I think what's getting particularly difficult about the trends I'm seeing online now is because at least to some extent back in the day, it was very like singular focus of like, I just want to be thin.
Yes.
Because everyone is caring more about wellness and health right now, some of those trends will have the same goal essentially, but they're being packaged and you don't know, and this is my question, like how much truth is in all of it, which is your gut health, you know, how, you know, your bloating and your like discomfort is because we've all kind of ruined our gut lining, or our hormones, and you're like, what hormones are we talking about right now? But like that feels like I should be doing it because that doesn't even feel like it's weight motivated. That feels like it's like inner health motivated. And cortisol spiking in the mornings, all of this different stuff. And that's actually what gets me more than anything, because I'm like, it's true though, now that I have eaten more sauerkraut and kimchi and whatever, that does actually make me feel better. And I go, well, if they're kind of right on that, are they right with the other stuff?
But that's not restrictive, right?
Yeah.
If you're adding fermented foods into your diet, that's, or whatever, kefir or whatever it might be, to help your gut health, that's amazing. That's not restrictive because you're adding. It's if you're taking away.
Exactly. And I think
but that's where you go, right?
But that's the slippery slope.
Because you start with the sauerkraut and then all of a sudden you're cutting out dairy.
Have an anti-inflammatory diet.
Yes.
Is trending. And I go, okay, well, we started here and that was actually quite interesting and positive and I didn't know about gut health before. And now I'm on some sort of like, here's your 5 meals a day that are restrictive meals, but it's like to get my cortisol down and be anti-inflammatory for my gut health. And it's like, oh, that jumped quick.
Totally. And it does, right? And I think there's so many things to unpack in there. I think number one is how inaccessible it is for so many people. We know, like I remember, I mean, now there's all these routines. Like we watch the unshedding routine of people on TikTok, like in those products. And then we look at some people, I mean, mainly, it's not really just celebrities. Their morning routine consists of 50 supplements that cost $3,000. Like that is so inaccessible, right?
I know.
And it's overwhelming. And we know the stats say that people are overwhelmed by the amount of health information. What happens when we're overwhelmed it does not motivate us. It actually does the opposite. We then do nothing because where the heck do we start? There's all this stuff. So what the best thing to do is strip it back. And if you are struggling with your gut health and that's impacting the way that you feel, you want to feel good, right? So add those amazing things into your diet. There might be things you need to change, but see a professional to talk about that, right? Because I think what's also really, really important is a lot of these trends and diets that are sold are to make money.
Yeah.
And there's words like buzzwords like gut health in some ways. Sometimes gut health content can be very, very productive and great and beneficial. But other times there's words like anti-inflammatory, all of these things that are used to sell us products that we don't need. And I think when it comes to bloating, for example, now, if you have IBS, you are uncomfortably bloating. It is impacting your quality of life. There is, like, for example, ovarian cancer. One of the symptoms of ovarian cancer is bloating. So there's multiple diseases where that's a symptom, right? So you need to monitor it. And I think we know, but also after we eat a meal, your stomach is going to be more full. You are going to have a bloat.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean we should be comfortable if our bloat is incredibly uncomfortable. It's impacting our quality of life.
Yeah.
But if we are full after we eat, that is normal. You don't need to take a vitamin that says anti-bloating because it's not normal to have, and that also comes down to it. We're sold this ideal that we need to have the perfect tummy is a flat tummy, and that's what healthy looks like. Most of us do not have a flat stomach.
No.
And no tablets.
Genetics.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And I think it's in what I would say my biggest advice to people in this content and in kind of distinguishing, is this helping me or is this making me feel shit about myself, is if it starts to make you have restriction, have food noise, think about your body, do body checks. That's something that took me a long time to unlearn. The amount of times, and sometimes I catch myself doing it, I feel my tummy.
Yeah.
And you look, maybe you walk past the mirror and you look, do I look like my tummy's poking out? Or can you see any rolls? Whatever it might be, whatever it is. We all have our different insecurities, right?
You know, it was, it started off as a joke with friends. And then you were like, oh no, if you think on that too long, that's kind of sad. Was the whole like, I'll wake up and check if I'm morning skinny.
Yeah.
Because you're like skinnier in the morning.
I think it's amazing you've said that too, because I don't think many people would. I think a lot of people don't admit that. And when I say don't admit, it shouldn't be shameful because that is what we're told to do.
Yeah. Or I mean, a lot of people say it in a joking way,
Yeah.
and that's how we feel comfortable talking about it.
It is when we use that language. And I'm very grateful, I think, obviously because of the work that we do. In my workplace, no one speaks about their body because it's KIC, and we have a very values aligned team, right? With my friendship groups as well, we don't talk about our bodies. Last year at one point, I spent a bit of time with someone that was in the depth of really struggling with body dysmorphia. And that impacted me. I started having food thoughts and checking my body because I was exposed to it for like a few days in a row. And that's what is so important to remember, is like if you're in environments where you're talking about using the word skinny, like I was at the other day, I was getting my nails taken off, and I was sitting next to these two young girls that were about they were talking about their year 12 formal, so 17, 18, and they were talking about their formal diet. And I was so triggered by it because I was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful I don't have anyone in my life that would speak like this. There's no shame on them, obviously, or anything, judgment, because that's what they're being conditioned to talk about. If you're on social media, you're following these pages that make you feel shit about yourself. And then in real life, in our lives,
it's compounding.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think, but it can be hard because it can be really uncomfortable to say to a friend, hey, when you talk about your body, when you say, oh, I've eaten too much, it's little things like, oh, I ate so much tonight, I have to exercise tomorrow. What that is inferring is that you need to work off the food that you ate because you feel guilty.
Yeah,
right?
You hadn't earned it.
You haven't earned it. We don't need to earn our food. But that's the language that I think we can all get better at checking ourselves, because it's hard. We have to unlearn it.
Yeah. But then in the same time, there's some conversations that I've had off the back of, I guess, these trends that has actually kind of opened up conversations in a positive way. And again, it has gone too far online now. But one of the big things I had with friends recently was we were talking about how everyone is more clued into protein these days. So now if I go to the pub or whatever, I would order a steak. Yeah. I love steak.
Good. So you're doing it also because you love it and you enjoy it.
Because I love it and enjoy it. But we were talking about in those like high school years, if I ordered a steak, I would have felt really blokey for doing that. And it's like food's not gendered. And this whole shift recently into like strength and protein has actually been quite beneficial in some ways to shed some of those other beliefs before, which is like girls don't need protein and girls don't eat steak.
We're literally at gyms. It's like the female set part of it is the cardio room and then the men's part is the strength area.
And
right?
it's this like gendered thing. I mean, that's kind of been a more positive conversation out of it. But then again, we look online and it's like it started there and then the carnivore diet was born.
Exactly.
Like,
but also it's like with that, I completely agree. There are some trends that are great. Like, for example, running is trending. That's, again, if you like running. If you hate running, there are some people that would rather die than run. Don't run. Find something else, right? But if you like running, it's amazing.
The fact that running clubs, like that's awesome to join.
It's healthy for you. Run clubs, socialize, etc. Amazing. But with protein, for example, it is an important macronutrient. However, so is carbohydrates. So is fats. And what is important is that with protein, as long as it doesn't become obsessive. So if you start thinking about your protein 24/7, every single meal you're like adding up, oh, I have to get my 30 grams of protein, otherwise I'm not good enough, otherwise I'm bad, I haven't hit my target. That's where it becomes obsessive.
And that's the spiral. And it's
exactly.
Just,
so you just have to, everything in moderation, balance. Like some days I will eat, and it's actually been being pregnant. It's so funny. I was like, oh, when I'm pregnant, I'll eat healthy as possible. But the first month, I just felt like McDonald's, which when I say McDonald's, I eat a lot of like burgers, etc. But I don't usually eat McDonald's because I don't actually think it's real food. Because it's like literally made of, and I also have a really big problem with how they're in a lot of lower socioeconomic areas and just, anyway, so that's however, fair. I was going to drive through for breakfast, right? Because I was like, this is what I feel like in this moment, and fried dim sims, I was obsessed with. Then I now don't feel like that at all. And I now feel like fresh food, but I actually am not feeling like protein at all. So I'm trying to eat more protein, but I'm also being kind to myself in that I'm not going to force myself to finish a steak or like eat chicken at breakfast or like have 10 eggs. Like I don't like it and I don't want to, right? So it's like be kind to yourself.
Joy of, I mean, I don't know a lot about pregnancy. Also, by the way, this is alcohol free, so you can have this as well. It's my friend's brand. It's so cute.
What is it? Tell me.
It's ginger and yuzu. TULA.
Amazing.
She doesn't drink alcohol, so it's her brand, so she can have something to sip. And when she's still out, anyway,
it sounded pregnancy
really good safe. Yeah,
amazing.
Isn't one of the best things about pregnancy though? You can eat what you want because your body is going to be changing and craving different stuff, and you can just kind of lean into that if you need, right?
But you know what's crazy is that we think that like we need to be pregnant to have permission to eat what we want.
Oh my god. I mean, you always hit me like I just have the craziest pregnancy cravings and I'm like allowed to do it and no one can say anything because
it's like that language allow. If you have to have permission to eat, then you're restricting yourself, right? And I think as well, maybe one of the reasons that is with pregnancy, associated with pregnancy, that permission, which again, we shouldn't have to give ourselves permission to eat what we want. But maybe it's because our tummies grow and we've just conditioned as women to just want to have and need a flat stomach to be worthy. And when you're pregnant, you can't have one because you're literally growing a human.
I think what I see and what I've seen online, and again, like it wouldn't be in my algorithm because I'm not like, I feel like once you like are in that stage, that's what presents itself to you. But you already hear so much of the language around is like, oh, I'm being healthy so I can bounce back.
Oh, the bounce back stuff is so, it's really, and this is something that Steph, because this is obviously the first time I've been pregnant. I'm very new to the journey. Steph, my business partner and best friend in KIC, she has now had her second baby, just had her second baby. And it's something that Steph is so vocal about because we celebrate pregnant women bodies. We think they're amazing. And then postpartum, we shame.
Yeah.
As soon as you've had your baby, the expectation to bounce back.
And it grinds my gears so much because I'm already thinking when you are postpartum, you will have so many emotions.
Yeah. And you're also exhausted.
You're exhausted. You've just given birth. You also won't recognize yourself in lots of ways because you're a new mum and because you're going through all this stuff and someone's giving you bounce back content. I would fume.
Yeah, it's so, but again, people make a lot of money from that content and it always comes down to that. All of the often the things like even with masculinity influences and the manosphere, like a lot of them, I spoke to Gina Martin about this, who's incredible as an activist in the area. And I said, like, why do you think we've had this rise in this masculinity content? Like, we know now, this is a bit of a tangent from diet culture, but I think it is linked. We know now that there's more younger men believe more in traditional gender roles than older generations. That is terrifying. And I said, why? And she said, because there is money in it.
Yeah.
There is money in promoting like these masculinity influences. It's this life of making money, going to the gym, and then being a misogynist. It's like the three categories, right, of their, or content pillars that they have.
Yeah.
But that is what is scary, is like in bounce back, in because you're promising something and you're targeting someone's vulnerability, just like masculinity.
There is
content.
so much money in being vulnerable.
Exactly right. Because when you have had a baby and your body doesn't look like it used to,
and
you
you're
are
already
vulnerable. And you're told as a woman, we're told as women, we have to look a certain way to be accepted. But it's about pushing back against that and not putting pressure on ourselves to bounce back into anything. So it's just unlearning all of this shit language.
But again, it's this. But it is broader than even, especially talking about that. Like it's not even just women in that. It's also having. You know, you would hope to God that your husband has also done unlearning, that he doesn't expect his wife to be bouncing back overnight, or that he's in it for the right reasons if you're having, you know, different postpartum experiences.
If your partner expects your body, like you have just grown a child, they can't grow. I always say to Dalton, I'm like, when we got married, because I don't know what I will do with breastfeeding. If I can breastfeed, I would like to breastfeed, but I've already said to him, I will either pump or will do formula as well, so you can help, because otherwise the entire load is on me, and that's not something that I want. However, he can't help me carry the baby. It's the one thing he can't help with, right? They can't be pregnant. But what the minimum, the bare minimum, is that they do not comment obviously on your body and how it's changed. And there's so many there's so many things. Like I got targeted the other day with this video of this man saying that watching his wife give birth was like watching the pub burn down.
Oh, I've heard that.
And that is like your wife, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, is giving up her body to grow your child and her child. That is something that is so beautiful and you should be so grateful for. And you should have compassion for. And so I think if your partner is expecting you to bounce back, like for example, the other day I was listening, I really don't know why it was on the radio, and it was Kyle, and Jackie O wasn't there. I don't know who was there, but I didn't listen long. Kyle said, they said people were guessing like, oh, he had some reveal or something. And people were saying, are you having another child? And he said, no, whatever his partner's name is has just got her body back. So she probably wouldn't want to do that. And I was like, that language is so dangerous. And if your partner is telling you that your body needs to look a certain way, then I'm so sorry, like they're not the right partner, and you need to have a conversation with them. Maybe not about leaving them. Maybe if they can't get past that, but hey, why do you expect me to look a certain way in order for me to be accepted by you?
That's really the litmus test for who you're dating. Like, are you going to feel self-conscious around them?
You should never, ever, ever feel self-conscious within a relationship.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I feel like with all of this conversation though, like feels very much like, yes, it's a big societal issue, and like it can feel very easy to be like, okay, we don't quite have control. But like, what can you do when you're on TikTok or whatever it is to try, like, is it just, saying not interested to content?
Yeah, it's important to note that. And it does sound like very doom and gloom, but like anything, we do have power. And we literally, I just recorded with the wonderful Hannah, and we spoke about the fact that, like, even just looking at I don't know if you can compare the election to this, but in my electorate, the 127 votes was the difference between someone winning and losing. Like, we think that we can't make an impact by ourselves, but we can. And so within diet culture, what you can do is any content that doesn't make you feel good with all the things. So when we say red flags, just to summarize them, and this is an amazing list that our dietitian Liv Morrison put together. Does it have a start and end date? It's then a diet, therefore it's diet culture. Is it an expert that is recommending this to you? If not, probably not something we should be looking at. Is it restrictive? So do you have to cut anything out? Like, they're the three really big ones. And then how does it make you feel about yourself? When you watch that content, do you feel motivated? Do you feel empowered? Or that night, do you then go look in the mirror and start picking apart your arms because they're not like the person you saw, or your tummy, or you start thinking about bloating because this person said this is how I cured my bloating forever, which sorry, you can't. You need to eat then. Like, you know what I mean? On Instagram, it's a lot easier, but actually it's kind of changing with the algorithm. You don't really see your friend's stuff anymore. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
Not interested on TikTok? Absolutely. I think on Instagram they have a similar feature, and unfollow and then take some time off the platform. It's like, for example, it's probably a very bad analogy, I'm going to use it anyway. If you break up with someone, like, of course, when you break up, if you've been with someone for a long time, even
unfollow them.
Yeah, you know what I mean? If you keep following them, if you keep talking to them, if you keep seeing them, I don't know anyone who's ever got over someone that has not had that cut from their life, unless they were both very well and truly over the relationship, but that would have taken time, right?
Yeah.
If you continue to be absorbed in an environment that's not making you feel good, and you're trying to unlearn it at the same time, we are literally setting ourselves up for failure. So it's just, how do you get out of this? Because people are getting very good at wrapping up diet culture in like wellness.
Yeah.
So making sure you get more familiar with those red flags, so you can see, actually, yes, this person is trying to say that, no, it's not about how you look, it's about how you feel. But then they're giving me a what I eat in a day video showing their abs at the start.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's about how you look.
Yeah. And if you are interested in elements of it, like gut health or whatever it is, then you can go do the research.
Exactly,
not
and
on
speak
the
to a professional.
platform.
And I mean, even like, people often say to me, like, how can you talk about this content when you run a health and wellness app? The reason I can talk about this content, because we run a health and wellness app, is because we literally started our app because of this. We wanted to create a place where people could come, where there wasn't calorie counting, there wasn't the pressure to change the way your body looks, but it empowered people with the tools to lead a healthy lifestyle. Because we've got, like, I don't know how, maybe 15 different types of exercise. The point of that is not because you have to do every single one. It's because, as we spoke about before with running, some people are going to love running, some people are going to hate it. You have to find something that you enjoy, right? Yeah. And so that's what's really, really important. Is it's not, you shouldn't feel shameful about wanting to live a healthier lifestyle. Like, it's amazing to want to feel good, but it has to be about how you feel, not about how you look.
Yeah. And that way you'll actually stick to it.
Exactly.
Well.
And then also you build, like, I think one of the most, for us in the work that we do, and very, very similar to the work that you do here, and how you're impacting so many people, the biggest feedback we get from KIC is, you know, people said, like, I've been on so many apps, or I've been on so many diets. KIC is the first thing I've been able to stick to. And my biggest progress is that it's not that my body has changed significantly, also because they're not really checking anymore, which is really amazing. They're not thinking about it. But it's the fact that I can now wear shorts, and I've never worn them before because I didn't think I was good enough to wear them. Or I can now walk into the weights area at the gym because I feel like I deserve to take up space there.
Yeah.
And
it's
like,
a mental
that's
shift.
the shit that we should be aiming for, you know, and that's what that's our motivation.
And I've been on the KIC app. I love the KIC app. I think we have, if people haven't tried it, they should. We'll put it in the show notes and everything like that. But I know this is a daunting topic, but the sort of summary of it is, if you care about wellness and health trends and you're inclined that way, that's a good thing, but it is a really slippery slope, and you have to have your wits about you. Thank you so much for coming on. I have so loved talking to you. And go check out the KICPOD if you haven't, and go check out the KIC app. And I just thank you so much for coming on and for talking about this and giving us all your knowledge and opening up, and thank you.
Thank you.